In this video of part 3 Python series, we are going to explore some amazing things like variables and operations with variables and what other things can you do with variables. So basically this episode is dedicated to only variables and the operations with it and various other things we can do with it. And I want to first apologize for not uploading a video for so many days, as I had a lot of things going on. I had to work for the cloud and such things, and I have been working lately on a lot of projects, so I had to complete them and make it to a pending state so I can continue later. So keeping those things now behind, we can now finally start our part on Python variables. So let's start. Hey everyone, welcome back to this episode on Python variables. So if you want to define variable, let's first think it in the perspective from math. So as you have seen, in maths what we do is usually x, let's define x to hold the value of 10, and then we'll add x to 10. So since x holds the value of 10 and we are adding x to 10, so basically we are literally adding, if you substitute x by 10, we are adding 10 plus 10, so it will give us the output of 20. So a variable is acting like a placeholder for a certain number or certain expression. Now if you are going to ask what is expression, an expression is a piece of math that contains not only numbers but operations between them. Like I can define a simple expression like 10 plus 2 or 20 plus 20. Now let's recap what we did in the last episode. So last episode we tried printing strings like print hello world. We did this, and moreover printing numbers like 10 or maybe decimals like 10.34, and we also tried to do some mathematical operations like 10 plus 2. And let's recap how we run the file. So basically it's like python app.py. Since my file's name is app.py, I'll just write python and the file name with the extensions and hit enter, and as you can see it gives me the output which I wanted to print. Alright, so now without doing any further ado, let's start. So in this episode, since we're gonna define variables, you might ask now, in maths we already did like x is equal to 10 and like y is defined as 20, so we're gonna be basically substituting them, and 10 plus 20 it gives us 30. But how are we gonna do that in Python? I mean, you might wonder, it might not be simple, isn't it? But unfortunately it is that simple. I mean, you're not believing? Let's start by defining a variable called x, and now I want to give the value of equals to 10. I want to give it the value. So unlike normal maths, x in Python, the equal operator is used to assign a value to a variable name instead of comparing two values. If you want to compare whether x is equal to 10, you want to go this, but we'll explore them slowly. We'll explore it, but before that let's see how we're gonna define a variable. So x equals to 10. Now as you can see we have defined a variable print. Now I want to print the value of 10, so let's try. Now you might ask, we want to use quotes and print x, isn't it? You might ask like that. Let's try running it. Python app.py. In order to run the previously run command, you can use the up arrow key in your keyboard to rerun it instead of typing it again, and hit enter. Okay, so the moment of truth, it prints just x. As I told you in the last episode, it whatever you print inside the code, it will just print the same thing instead of changing anything in it. Now if you want to print the variable, since we have defined it here, you just want to type x, isn't it? Like last episode we tried doing something like print ABC without a quote, but it gave us an error since it assumes things to be a variable which is not defined. Like we haven't given ABC a value, or ABC doesn't even exist, so we can't use it. But when we print X, as you can see, it doesn't give us a red tilted line, so it seems that the program is error free. And now let's try running it. Yay, as you can see, it gives us 10. That's the value what we wanted. Now let's try something else. Let's try storing X equals to 10, maybe 9.86, and store a decimal value. Let's see how it goes. And now after saving the file, run it. Yep, as you can see, the same thing happens. It can even store a float value. Now let's try storing a, how about a string? So my name is Sunrit. Alright, now as you can see, I've stored a string. So whatever you call a string is always stored between the quotes, but mine, that the quotes are never printed, just the text between them. So as you can see, I have stored X, my name is Sunrit, and now I'm gonna run the file. Yep, as expected, it prints that my name is Sunrit. Now in the last video we explored the data types. If you are not aware of that, I will teach you that again. But till then, remember boolean values are true or false, like 1 or 0 the binary operate. True, it can be false. Note that the F or T which is printed is always in capital letter. It's a kind of, what you can say, nomenclature of Python or something rule like that, syntax rule. So boolean value, I'll add a command for others to understand. Boolean value, I'll add extra space, or my computer is getting angry that why haven't I added a space. Alright, so let's print this. So as expected, it again prints false. Yep. So now let's define the term variable in generic words or in accordance to Python. So Python variables, or a variable is a named location. So when we are browsing the computer stores the data somewhere like RAM. Your computer stores the data in RAM, so it can immediately fetch it when needed. When you shut down the computer, it stores it to the disk so you can access it next time. But the case isn't same with RAM. So when you store data with RAM, it's only existing until the computer is on or it's running till an extent or an instance. So let's continue. A variable is a named location used to store data in the memory. So memory refers to the RAM or the random access memory. It is helpful to think of variables as a container. So basically it's a container that holds a data or a number. It can be number or a string or a boolean value and stuff. Now let's try something. So as you can see, you can assign a single value. Now let's try something different. X equals to false. I'll just add a space for clarity. Y equals to 10. Now let's print Y, see if it works. It worked, and yes, it gives us 10. Now let's try something interesting. As you can see, I want to define X as false and Y as 10, but it is spanning multiple lines. Like for now it's just two variables. What if we have another thing like a Z variable which contains, hey yeah. Okay, now we're using three lines of code, and it will grow as we have more larger programs and more larger programs with more variables. So how will we convert this into a single line? As you might not know, but Python is a language that converts multi-line programs of various other languages into a single program. That's why Python is like English, and it's really short to write, and you can have a great output or achievement out of a simple program. So let's train. So as you can see, we are defining three things. Now what you're gonna do is x, for now what we'll do is x equals to false, and then what we're gonna do is x comma y. Now we're gonna assign the second value, which is 10. So we're gonna add 10. So basically what happens, Python reads it like this. So x is gonna be assigned to this first value, y is gonna be assigned to the second value, and what you can add how many ever you want, like z will be assigned to hey yeah. Okay, now we'll just remove these three lines and let's print x. Let's see how it goes. So as we expected, it prints false. Let's try printing z and let's see how it goes. Yep, as I told, it prints the same thing which we wanted, but as you can see, it simplifies our code and it's easier to read, and we have to write a lot less. Like what Python reads is like, okay, so x is in the first, so I'll assign this value, y is in this thing, so I'll assign 10. Now let's try something. I'll remove this line, and what will happen? Let's try printing z. So it gives us not enough values to unpack. So when it sees that there are three variables but two values, it will raise an error since we are not providing a value for this variable. So that raises an error, and you might have to understand that why it doesn't work. Alright, now since we have covered one more thing, let's define a constant, as somebody say. So variables are values that keep on changing, like as I have defined. We'll come do this here, and you know what, I want to change the value of z to hello. So when we ran the first program, it gave us an output of here, but I wanted to change it to hello, just hello, and try. As you can see, I have reassigned the variable. I've already assigned it here, and I want to reassign it. So I have done it, and let's run it. Yeah. So what happens when you redefine a variable? It'll just override a previous thing. It'll override this thing and assign this new thing. Okay, so it changes in the RAM. But sometimes, you know what? Pi. Let's take an example of pi, which is approximate value of 3.14. But we don't want this to change. So what are we gonna do? Yep. So in Python, there's a notation of if you enter the variable names with all caps, will be interpreted as a constant, and you can change the value. So let's try if we can change the value pi equals to 3.4. Let's try that. Um, let's try running it. We'll see. So it does change, but you know, if I might ask now, then why define it as caps if it changes? So what will you gonna do is it's basically like we are making a notation for others to use, that if it's in caps, don't change it, it's a constant, else you can change it or modify it however you want. So basically it's a nomenclature that shows the other users or Python developers that it's a constant, please don't modify it. It's simple as that. Now the next thing we're gonna explore is rules and naming conventions. Alright, now how are we gonna name a variable? So let's say I wanna change, I wanna store my name. So name equals to Sundrit. So I'll print my name. Let's print it. Yeah. So it's printing my Sundrit. Now let's say what about I store my friend's name? So I have also stored it in a Rohit. My friend's name is Rohit, so I'll store it there, and let's try printing it. So it prints Rohit, but you know what? I want to keep my name in a variable and his name in a variable. So how are we gonna store it? So in Python, you can do the following things. Let me make a comment. In Python, you can use alphabets, numbers. Okay, I'll use brackets. Alphabets denoting A to Z and A to Z. So caps A to Z, numbers of 0 to 9, and it also supports underscore. So let's say I wanna store my name in a variable called my name. So if we do like this, it makes it unreadable, making it a single word. So how do we separate my and name? So we're gonna use underscore. Now, let's say name of a student with a roll number. So name, let's say it's my friend's name. So friends underscore name. It stores like that. And as you can see, it doesn't exist, so it gives me error. So I'll print friend, wait, friend's name. Let's try printing it. Yeah, as you can see, it works. If you try using a hyphen instead of, if you try using hyphen instead of an underscore, let's see how it goes. Let's try printing it. Yeah. So basically, in Python, this minus thing is interpreted as a subtraction operator, but not a thing to separate names. So it's not permissible and hence it raises an error of syntax thing. So if you wanna say something like let's store a variable called Apple phone 007. So let's say 007 is the generic model number and store the thing. What's that? Let's store the price of 103.4 bucks. So now as you can see, it supports this thing. If you are trying like Apple phone 007, it even works like that. But let's try printing it first and I'll explain the next thing later. Apple phone of model 007. Let's print it. As you can see, it prints me the price. What if we try something like this? Instead of 007 at the last, we try 007 underscore. Let's see, why doesn't gives us an error? So it gives us invalid decimal literal. So when something starts with a number, Python thinks it's a number, but when it starts reading the rest of the thing, it assumes that it must be a number, but it isn't. It's just text. That's why it raises an error. If you're interested, a variable name can even start with underscore, but never with a number. You must remember that. So let's store it in Apple phone 007. And it's back to normal. So yay, we learned another thing, how this thing works. Now you want to store a constant, you must always do like this. Gravity force. Now we're going to store it in a variable of 9.81. So hence it is making it a constant. So it's a constant now. Let's try something else now. Yep. So now what we're gonna explore is boolean literals. So let's clear this thing up, print nothing, and yep. So when we are trying to do a boolean thing, like let's say is rich, and I want to find whether the guy is rich. If he's rich, you wanna store true, else false. You can also do something like this. I don't want to directly assign a variable. I want to check if 2 is greater than 3. So 2 is greater than 3. If it's no, then it will be assigned as false. Now let's print is rich. Is rich. Basically, when we make a boolean variable, we always prefix with which sounds like asking a question if is that yes or no. So it just gives us an objective type of question. Let's see, it gives us false. Now it might, why does it give x? Now let's try inverting this thing towards if 2 is smaller than 3. Yeah, it is actually smaller than 3. So how does it happen is like Python goes here, evaluates 2 is 3 smaller than 3. Yeah, it is. So I don't understand what yes or no is, so I'll just assign a value of true or false and it will be assigned to this value. And finally we just reuse this variable here by printing it. So basically this is like saying 2 is greater than 3. Yes, it is. So hence Python will add a value like this and assign it to this variable. So I hope you have understand how this thing works. If you're also interested to work more like this, let's try something for false plus 4. Let's see what it gives us. It gives us the number. So basically what false is interpreted is as, when you're going for lower level languages, false is interpreted as a value, integer value of 0, while true is interpreted as integer value of 1. So it gives us 4 0. So this is substituted by 0. Let's add true. Okay, let's try true plus 4. Yeah, so it gives us 5. So as I told, true has an integer code of 1. So it's basically like saying 1 plus 4 is 5. I hope you have understood this too. Now let's think of something. I wanna assign something like, let's assign a variable list. Whether I have a list is true. Now try printing list. Now let's print it. So it does assign, but do you notice some difference? This variable is in white, this is in white, but why is this in green? So let me see something. List is a reserved keyword in Python. So there are many words like for, list, tuple. They're already occupied as word in Python. We can't use them as variable until we define a variable out of them. So basically, they are just used as normal keywords. Like if you're wondering what list is, it's a data type. We'll be covering it later, but keep in mind you must never ever define a keyword as a variable. It's really bad and it really degrades the code. And also remember, it might raise an error sometimes. So that will be really bad when it raises an error. So I hope you have learned the concepts till now. Now let's try something different. Alright, let's try x equals 10. Sorry, y equals to 34. Let's try something, x plus y. So you might be wondering, this might raise an error. Let's see for us. It isn't. What it did is substitute y is 34, x is 10, and gives us the sum. So it basically like saying give us 10 plus 34. And as I told, variables act as placeholder for numbers, so it does the same thing. You wanna now try subtraction? Let's try that. Yeah, minus 24. Let's try the multiplication. 34 into 10 is 340. So 340. Let's try y by x. So y by x will be 3.4. Since 0 will go here, the decimal will go to a point, and yep, it gives me 3.4. But what if I just want an integer output, like I just want this 3 rather than this 0.4? So what I'll do is I'll just add an extra slash for integer division. And okay, oops, there's some problem. X y, wait, slash, sorry for the thing. Now let's try running it. Yay, as you can see, it gives us 3 instead of 4. Let's try the exponential operator. So x raised to the power of y. So instead of using this single asterisk, you might want to consider using double asterisk and run it. Whoa, that's a lot of zeros, but it did compute a sum. Alright, so you might be wondering, now it's time to do some fun. Yay, now let's do something. So what I'm gonna do is, like, let's say I've defined x is 10. I wanna make the, let's print the x variable first, and let's say I have it 10 to be sure, and let's say I want to make this 20, but instead of modifying it directly like this, I want to add 10 to it. So what I'll do is x equals to x plus 10. So what Python does is, when it comes to this operator, assignment operator, it reads from right to left. So it reads like this. Okay, so I have this variable 10 and I have to send it or store it in the variable of x. What I do is, as you can see, I have defined it already, a variable of x. Now what it reads when it comes to next line, it says, oh, so x is a variable I know which has the value of 10. Now what I'm gonna do is I'll just substitute this x with 10 and add 10 to it. So it'll just basically adding 10 to 10, or if it's 20, it'll just substitute this with 20 and add 10 to it, so it'll give me 30. Let's try it. I told you it gives us 30. Now you want to try something like reduce 2. So wait, there's a problem here. Now you want to subtract 10 from 20, so x equals to x minus 1. Instead of using y, we are just using a single variable. So now let's run it. It subtracts 10. Now let's try multiplying it. So basically 20 into 100, 200, it works. Let's divide it itself by 10. It gives me 2.0. So it's a float or decimal number. Now you know what? I'll show you a simple thing. Let's revert it to plus. And you know what? Writing like lines like this is always tedious. Like it's really not. So what you have to do is x. What operator you're gonna use? So I'm gonna add 10 to this itself. So x plus equals to 10. So in the last step we saw that x equals to x plus, isn't it? Now what the same expression can be written in short by x plus equals to. So it's basically like the variable name, then the operator, then the assignment operator, and finally the number you're gonna operate with. So run it, and voila, you get the same output as previous. So these are all the mathematical operations and the shorthand operations and such. Now let's take a real world example of something. So here we're gonna do a small program. Let me write a small program statement. So when you're trying to write, let's say we try like this. Prints hello world. But this is just a comment for next line. If you want to try hello world, it is not a comment anymore. What if we want to write multi-line of comments? So you have to do three quotes and again close them, three quotes, and go in the middle. Sorry, I've typed an extra thing here. You have to go in the middle. Something weird, man. Yeah, as you can see, you have to go in the middle and enter, and you want to write. So I'll write the problem statement in the quotes and we'll start. So write a program that does the following. Now what we're gonna do? Following. Define a variable miles walked with the value of 45. Then print it, print, print it. Then add 34 to the variable to show the more distance you walk, and add it to the wait. Since this line is growing, what I'll do is just add a space here, add it to the main variable. Now let's continue with the fourth one. Let's try the fourth one and finally print it. So sorry for this interruption. Now let's start writing the program. Yay. So this is the problem statement I have done. Let's remove everything and let's start from scratch. So let's read everything step by step. So define a variable miles walked. So let's define the variable first. Miles walked. We don't have to assign it yet now with the value of 45. So now it specifies we have to assign a value of 45. Then print it. So we have to print it, print miles walked. Sorry for the stuff. I'll just pause this video for a sec and be back but after cleaning these things up. Hey guys, I'm back and let's continue again. So miles walked is 45 and I'm printing it. So I'm gonna run the file python app.py. Yep, it works. Now what we have to do is add 34 to the variable. So it specifies you have to add to the previously defined variable. So it's like miles walked. Let's use the shorthand. So plus equals to how much value are we gonna add? 34. Now it's right. Now let's print it. Now let's print miles walked. Three. Yeah, it gives us 79. So basically 45 plus 34 is 79. So hooray, we have done a successfully a program or a real life program for us. So we have reached the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed this video and the simple example of doing addition and shorthand thing with a variable. I have tried my best to explain the concepts. If you have any doubt explaining or learning how these things work, you can ask me in the comment section below. You have a doubt, just ask it and I'll be sure to answer it instantly in a few minutes if I can. So, let's stop for today. I'll meet you in the next episode. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to like this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe also and hit the notification bell to be notified of every video I upload. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you later.